It's time for another AFC South showdown as the Indianapolis Colts take on the Tennessee Titans. Can Anthony Richardson have success against a tough Titans defense? And will the Colts defense rebound from the embarrassment of Jacksonville? Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast presented by Indianapolis Colts on SI.com, part of the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Andrew Moore. And as always, I'm joined here by my co-host of the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast, Drake Wally. Drake, Jacksonville's in the rearview mirror. We're focused on the Tennessee Titans, another AFC South showdown. Colts 0-2 to start the year against the division opponents. Really crucial that they don't start out 0-3. I know this team is really banged up, but if they have any hope of somehow coming back and capturing this division title, it looks like it's going to be the Houston Texans that are their main competition. But if they have any hope at all of getting the division crown, they got to win this weekend.
Yeah, starting out the season 0-3 is awful, but it's kind of overlooked if you start your division 0-3 and it's against each team once. So it's like, you're kind of looking at this as a make or break game. The Colts fall to 2-4, 0-3 in their division, man. I know it's like barely a third of the way through the season, but I just cannot see a team like that having much of a chance to make the playoffs. So
Exactly. So tonight we're going to dive into the entire matchup between the Colts and the Titans. Anthony Richardson, he looks to be on the way back. Which version of Richardson are we going to see? What about that running game? Are we going to have Jonathan Taylor out there, or is it going to be Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson again? The receivers have injuries, and then of course this defense. I think expectations are incredibly low for this defense. So whatever they're able to do, hopefully they don't even go lower than we already expect of them. But Patrick, the CFO, is here to kick us off. Good to see you, my friend. I'm really not looking forward to the Will Levis to the Colts truthers screaming about how right they were after the Titans offense racks up 570 yards on the Colts this weekend. Well, Patrick, let's hope that's not the case, because they'll be pretty insufferable on X. But good to see you, buddy. Sean Contright as well. Average Day Skyler, go Colts. Nathan Comanci, hello, boys. Back. AR was back to full practice today. Yes, he was. We will be talking about Anthony Richardson here in a bit. And then Ronnie on Facebook, just get ready for the draft again, like every year. We gotta get some positivity here, guys. It's only week 6. There's still a lot of football left to be played. But as everyone else comes in here, please be sure to go follow us on all of our socials, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts _SI on X, and then make sure you're subscribed to the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel. Hit that bell so you know when Drake and I are going live every Monday and Thursday night, because you never want to miss an episode all season long. And then if you can't catch us live or on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there as well. So be sure to subscribe, give us a 5-star review so we can continue to reach other Colts fans just like you. So Drake, the Colts are 3-point underdogs to the Tennessee Titans in Nashville. The over-under sitting at 43. Now, when you look at this matchup, I mean, it looks like the Colts are going to have a tough time passing the football. The Titans are number 1 in the NFL against the pass. They're only giving up on average 124 yards per game. Now, we do have to put that into some context here, because if you look at the Titans schedule, they haven't exactly played the gauntlet of quarterbacks so far. They did get a win last week or 2 weeks ago against the Miami Dolphins, but without Tua Tagovailoa. They did play the Green Bay Packers, the Malik Willis-led Green Bay Packers. They played the Aaron Rodgers-led Jets, and then they played Caleb Williams in his first game. So when you look at all of that, it doesn't seem like the Titans have faced the best quarterbacks out there. So while they are leading the league in yards, they are leading the league in passing yards. I don't know if it's a true test of what this defense is all about. But Drake, the Colts offense can be up or down depending on the week. So they can't just go in here and take that lightly and think that just because the Titans haven't played one of any good quarterbacks, maybe outside of Aaron Rodgers, that it's going to be a cakewalk for them. This Titans defense is for real.
Yeah, and they're also one of a few teams that's played 4 games, whereas everyone else has played 5. So you have to put that into account. They had one of the early bye weeks, but regardless of who they played or didn't play, I mean, the Colts got their asses kicked by Malik Willis. So it's like, I'm kind of looking at the numbers like, yeah, okay, so they played some pretty underwhelming QB competition, and Rodgers can be, I think, still that guy, but it's like he's kind of looking like he might be approaching that cliff, but we'll see. I think that regardless, you have to treat this as a top level defense. You have to. I mean, and you're out some guys that really make your plays for you, or at least divert a lot of defensive attention to themselves for other guys to make plays. We'll get to that later. But yeah, you can't take this team lightly. My God, you're going into Nissan Stadium too, man. They are going to heckle the crap out of the Colts. It's probably going to be very, very heavily Tennessee fan based. So it's not going to be an easy win, but man, the Colts cannot take this defense lightly at all.
The good news is it looks like the Colts are getting back Anthony Richardson. He was limited on Wednesday. He was a full participant in practice today. Looks good. Says he feels really good. Feels a lot better than he did last week. All indications are Anthony Richardson will be starting at quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday. So, Drake, that kind of begs the question, though, of which version of Anthony Richardson are we going to get? Are we going to get what we saw through the first 3 games where he was inaccurate at times, rushing his throws, but the explosive plays were there? Or are we going to see the Anthony Richardson that started out the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers? He was calm in the pocket. The game was slowing down for him. He was able to deliver accurate throws to his receivers, and he was a big part of why the Indianapolis Colts scored 14 points on their first 2 drives. So, Drake, what do you think? Which version of Anthony Richardson do you think we're most likely to see on Sunday?
Man, it's really difficult to say because he finally started hitting throws in that Pittsburgh game and then misses the last 3 quarters or 3.5 quarters, then misses the entire game against the Jaguars. So not saying that he's missing a season, right? But you're kind of somewhat slowing down that momentum. So I think that, good Lord, the fact that he has to go on the road, come back potentially against the number 1 pass defense in the NFL, that is, it's out of the fire and into the frying pan kind of situation from getting hurt to being healthy, but then you have to face Tennessee. Here's the thing, though. Yes, they had to beat those QBs. Yes, it's impressive. They've only, allowed, about 125 yards passing or so out of game. But, man, Richardson is far different than any one of those guys. I mean, good God. Yeah, Willis is athletic. He is not Anthony Richardson athletic. Willis can still get the ball around the field, but nothing like Richardson. Rodgers is definitely the most talented passer, but my God, man, Richardson can throw the ball from any angle. So, I mean, he's going to make that defense. And L'Jarius Sneed, which, by the way, fans, has by all rights not been very good this season for the Titans. I think that you have to cover every blade of grass if you are Tennessee, and he's going to test them.
Yeah, I think he is. And when you look at this Titans defense, they certainly have names at all 3 levels. I mean, certainly in the middle, you're looking at Jeffrey Simmons, one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL, Tavondre Sweat there, their rookie nose tackle there, who has been really, really good. You look at the second level, Kenneth Murray is a solid linebacker along with Ernest Jones, who they got from the Rams. Harold Landry is the pass rusher along with Arden Key. Those 2 pass rushers that they have can certainly get after quarterbacks. And then when you go to the second level, obviously they made some moves at safety. Quandre Diggs, who was a popular name that the Colts fans wanted. Jamal Adams. Of course, they have Amani Hooker there, who has been there and has performed well. And then you mentioned it, Drake, L'Jarius Sneed, Roger McCreary in the slot. I know they got Jarvis Brownlee Jr. as well. So they've got some good names there on the defensive side of the ball that have been playing well against the pass. So I do agree that when you look at the raw numbers and the analytics for L'Jarius Sneed, he certainly hasn't played up to that contract yet. But this Titans defense as a whole has really been giving opposing quarterbacks troubles, regardless of who they're playing. But I do think that It wouldn't surprise me if Anthony Richardson is a little rusty to start out, and
Sure.
and,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's because he was just starting to get things going. He was settled down, and then of course it stops. You get that injury, so it really wouldn't surprise me if it takes a little bit for Richardson to get back into that rhythm, but. He could also surprise us and go out there and could pick up right where he left off, like he did because again, it seems like that fourth game of action is really when Anthony Richardson started to slow down last year. He started to slow down this year. So you're hoping that continues because if it does, then I think he can have some success against this Titans defense. If not, then you're probably going to be relying on those big plays. And that, I mean, certainly the Colts have Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce has been fantastic in that regard, but you're looking like you're not going to have Michael Pittman for not only this week, but multiple weeks. Josh Downs' status is up in the air, so he's not going to have his full arsenal of weapons at his disposal. So where I really think Anthony Richardson could actually do some damage. Colts fans may not want to hear this, but it's on the ground because the Titans are only the 15th best run defense in the NFL. So they're about middle of the pack. And Colts fans are probably up in arms like, well, the reason he missed last week against the Jaguars was because he was running the football and not getting down. So if the Colts are going to use him on more design runs and get him out there like that, he's got to be careful. He has to take care of himself first and foremost. He talked about that this week, about making sure that he was doing everything he can while he was on the field to protect himself. Obviously, you can never fully protect yourself when playing football, but getting down, sliding when you have to, that's what's going to be key to keeping Anthony Richardson out there on the field.
Yeah, and again, like he is so dynamic with his feet. And yes, you want him to be careful, but you also trust him. Okay, like he's a smart kid. He's not stupid. All right, he's not just I mean, it's his competitive nature that sometimes might expose him a little bit. So I think that he's learning. I think obviously he has been hurt often, but he's only 22. And you got to run the ball on the Titans. You cannot go against this defense. I don't care who the hell they played with a pass heavy approach. I mean, you have to be able to run the football at least a little bit because Ernest Jones and I think it's Kenneth Murray you mentioned, those two linebackers are absolutely fantastic. They're overlooked. One guy can make tackles in the backfield. The other guy can play pass coverage. So like you cannot take this defense with an approach of we're going to throw the football like they did against Jacksonville. You're talking about 31st worst against best. So you're going to need to run that football. Fully expect Anthony Richardson to get like at least 6 or 7 carries, man.
Yeah, and Steichen also needs to make sure those quarterback runs happen at the opportune time, not just running to for sake of running. Make sure they come at times where they can be effective. But when you look at the run defense for the Titans and what the Colts are going to be bringing for the run game, Drake, obviously Jonathan Taylor's status is still up in the air. Hasn't practiced at all this week, but he's told the media that he feels a lot better. That the pain that he was feeling in that ankle has gone down considerably. Can Jonathan Taylor play without practice? Probably. But I feel like he would at least need to be testing that ankle and test it out before he goes out there and plays. So my gut says Jonathan Taylor doesn't play this week. My gut says that Taylor is going to be held out another week, and it's more realistic that he plays against the Dolphins next week than in Tennessee this week. So if that's the case, it's going to be another week of Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson. We saw last week that didn't exactly pan out to be as effective as we thought. So what's your confidence level, I guess, in this Colts running game if it's Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson again, but you also have now the added element of Anthony Richardson with the quarterback run game? Because I do think that certainly helps these two running backs, or would help these two running backs get going.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that when you look at last game, you had 10 carries from Sermon, I think like 5 or 6 from Goodson. Sermon wasn't too impactful. He did score, obviously, but that was also after Pierce should have scored and just fell down at the 1 yard line, and Sermon just pretty much fell over the goal line. So
yeah.
I think that you have an opportunity here to run the ball obviously better than you did. But at the same time, man, I want to see more Tyler Goodson. Okay, if Taylor doesn't go, I want to see more Tyler Goodson. One word stuck out. He was more explosive. He cut the lanes. He made guys miss. He was more. He created more. Okay, and I think that you don't want to necessarily make him the every down back. I don't think that's his thing. But include him more with Trey Sermon and with Anthony Richardson. You pretty much have three running backs. It just so happens one of them's bigger than the other two, and he can throw the football.
Yeah, I do think that that's the proper approach, is have a more balanced attack with Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson in there. I don't think Trey, and I don't mean this to sound disrespectful to Trey Sermon, but Trey Sermon's not good enough to be the bell cow back.
Sure.
Tyler Goodson is closer to Trey Sermon than I think Trey Sermon is to Jonathan Taylor, if that makes sense. So use them, use them in the appropriate situations where you're not having Trey Sermon out there for 12 to 13 carries and then Tyler Goodson's only getting 5. Those carries I think should really be split up 50-50. And then if one of those guys catches the hot hand, sure, ride the hot hand. But you want to give those guys both ample opportunities to get going. I think that's something that DeAndre Smith and Shane Steichen could improve on, is like last week. Tyler Goodson had the hot hand. You saw him making those explosive plays in the middle of the game when the Colts offense really needed a jolt. And then all of a sudden he wasn't really out there on the field. He wasn't getting as many touches again. So if that's the case, they always say we're going to ride the hot hand. Ride the hot hand. Actually do it. Allow Tyler Goodson to get going. Or if it's Trey Sermon's week to do that, then let Trey Sermon take the bulk of the carries. It certainly is going to help having Anthony Richardson back out there, because you're going to have to account for him on every single play. And that will certainly slow that defense down. They won't be able to attack the running lanes as they would have, as they did last week. And also the Jaguars run defense is better than this Titans run defense. And currently the
Sure.
Jaguars sit, I think it is like 8th in the NFL in terms of run defense, and the Titans are 15th. So you're dealing with last week you were dealing with an upper echelon run defense. This week the Titans are about middle of the pack. So again, I think you can take advantage of that. And maybe this does, if you rely on that running game and start having success with that running game, you can then ease Anthony Richardson back into the game and allow him to get into a rhythm that way, rather than come out guns a-blazing, throwing the football on 10 of your first 12 plays, and trying to force him into a rhythm. Rely on that run game early and let the game come to Anthony Richardson and get into a rhythm that way. I think that's probably the best way to approach attacking this Titans defense.
Yeah, I mean, even if you do have some injuries, okay, you still have one of the upper echelon offensive lines, okay, and you have to predicate this game on your ground game, and I think that if you can establish a rhythm and get those offensive linemen, some energy and let them hit some guys, I mean, my goodness, you could open up more. And I think that without a certain playmaker who we'll get to, I think that it might be more important than ever to run the football effectively.
Yeah, exactly. And his stats, Matt says, AR helps for sure. Any second thought by a defender is a split second to the advantage
Sure.
of the running back. Well said. So I think that the Colts will attack with the running game, but they're not going to abandon the pass entirely. And losing Michael Pittman Jr. is a big loss. So if you guys don't know, it was reported yesterday that Michael Pittman Jr. Is dealing with a back injury that is likely going to keep him out for multiple weeks. The Colts are even considering putting him on short-term IR. So doesn't look like Michael Pittman is going to be out there for about I would say probably a month, at least. And that it kind of makes sense as to why we haven't seen the Michael Pittman Jr. that we're used to this season, because that back injury has really been hampering him all season long. I do know that there are reports that he hurt it against the Jaguars, but he has been dealing with back issues throughout the season. I think this just made it worse and kind of put it over the top, where he's really not able to go out there and play. That's a big loss, Drake. It really is, because while Michael Pittman wasn't having the best year, you saw in that game against Pittsburgh when Anthony Richardson was going, Michael Pittman had 60 yards in the first quarter alone. Richardson was finding Pittman, and they were really leading this Colts offense down the field and down the field quickly. They're really starting to develop a connection there. And then without Michael Pittman, you're losing your number one wide receiver. That's going to hurt any quarterback that's out there. So who do you think's got to step up with Michael Pittman out, not only this week against the Titans, but it seems like for at least the next 3 to 4 weeks?
Well, I mean, there's really two. You've got the guy who has to probably do more, that wasn't really a starter, and then you've got the guy who was already a starter who's going to have to really lead the charge. The guy who's going to have to step up and do more previously not as a starter is Ashton Dulin. I think that you saw a sample of what he's capable of against the Texans. Now, can he be a guy that can be leaned upon? We'll see. It's a steep downgrade. It's no offense to Dulin. It really just preaches to how good Michael Pittman is, I think, because Dulin is still a playmaker. But really, I think it's Josh Downs. I know that everyone's talking about Alec Pierce, but you're talking about a guy who's probably never going to be that volume receiver. Should he be targeted more? Absolutely. But Josh Downs is going to be the guy who's going to be targeted 9, 10, 11, 12 times, man. He's going to be that guy that's going to have to set that pace and bring that defense in so that then you can take those deeper shots. Okay, like I think that he's obviously going to have his plays where he's going to create and get some big plays downfield, but man, it's time for number one to step up, and I think that I think he might surprise some people, man. I think some people might be looking at Josh Downs like, okay, good slot receiver. Can he be a number one? Incredible route runner. We'll have to see.
I think Josh Downs is going to be the guy that receives the bulk of the targets that go to Michael Pittman Jr. But Drake, you mentioned Ashton Dulin and Josh Downs. AD Mitchell plays a part in this too. He really does. This is AD Mitchell's opportunity. You know, the first few games he was kind of going back and forth with Alec Pierce. He was in that slot role with Josh Downs, and he didn't look comfortable. Since Josh Downs has been back, the amount of reps and the amount of plays that AD Mitchell has, the amount of chances has gone down drastically. So with Michael Pittman out, you're probably looking at AD Mitchell coming in there and taking over a lot of those reps at that Z spot. Of course, I think Ashton Dulin is going to play a big role in this. I don't think it's just going to be AD Mitchell taking all of those reps. I think they're probably going to split those. But this is AD Mitchell's opportunity to put all of the talk behind him. You know, there's been a lot of talk recently about his propensity to shy away from contact or alligator arm a pass because he doesn't want to get hit, running the wrong route or having miscommunication with the quarterback. Here's the time to put all that to bed. This is AD Mitchell's opportunity to go out there, show that he is improving, and have a big impact on the game. I don't think that Anthony Richardson's not going to throw him the football just because they haven't really been able to connect. We've seen early in the season that Richardson will continue to go back to AD Mitchell. AD Mitchell is getting open. That's not the problem. So that's a really good thing. It's not the problem that he's not getting open. He is getting open. He's just not finishing the plays. If he starts to finish these plays, look out, because that's when I think you're going to see him get more confident in those catches, get more confident in himself, and you're going to start to see him stacking good days and good games. But he's just got to start. He's got to start that. You know, he's getting open, but you got to finish those plays. I think that's the biggest thing or the biggest problem when it comes to why Mitchell hasn't gotten off to his fastest start as we all thought, because he just hasn't been able to finish plays. Once he starts doing that, I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, and you know, he's also, I believe he's still 21. So like super young still, but some of those plays were Richardson sailing some pretty rough passes, and there were other plays that, you know, Flacco, I just think maybe there was some miscommunication. But you know, I would like to see him make a tough catch, a contested catch, a physical catch, go for the ball. You know, not saying put your head out on a platter. Okay, we've seen that doesn't work out well, but I do want to see a tough catch. But yes, I think that there has been a little bit of a higher expectation than maybe where Mitchell was ready for the NFL from fans. But the reason I didn't mention him is because, he's kind of a wild card right now, but he is also a rookie. So this is his time. This is his time to shine, man. This is where number 10 really shows what he's worth.
So we've talked about this Colts offense going up against the Titans defense. Now it's time to switch gears. Now we're looking at the Colts defense. And Drake, it hasn't been pretty. It hasn't been pretty, to say the least. We went in on the Colts defense last episode. I don't think we need to do that here. But when you look at the Titans offense, if there was ever a week for this Colts defense to rebound, it's this week against the Titans. The Titans are 30th overall in offense, 29th against the pass, 29th passing offense, 18th rushing offense, and they're only 20th in scoring. This is the perfect opportunity for this Colts defense, who should have a lot of what's the word?
Success.
A lot of motivation behind them to really go out there and stick it to this Tennessee Titans team.
Yeah, and I think that if you're Gus Bradley, I know that he was recently asked, what's going on with the points you're allowing. It's last in the NFL right now. The Colts literally are last in the NFL as far as yards allowed per game, but they're like bottom 10 in points allowed per game. So, he said it's on the players. They believe in the players, and they have to just really get better at their fundamentals. Now, you're looking at a team here that, while they do have Calvin Ridley, while they do have DeAndre Hopkins, Ridley has been a ghost of himself with this Titans offense, and Hopkins can still expose a weak secondary. But it's really been Tony Pollard. That's been the offense. It's not been Tyjae Spears. It's been Tony Pollard. And I think that that's where a lot of your focus has to go. You've got to take away Tony Pollard. You can't let Levis hit him out of the backfield. You can't let Pollard get counter runs or a step on you. You can't let him embarrass you and get over 120, 130, 150 all-purpose yards. He's going to catch passes, and he has the ability to take it to the house. But yes, I think that when you're looking at Gus Bradley, it's like, is he probably going to stay for the rest of the year, Colts fans? I know some of you don't want to hear this, but yes, he's probably staying for the rest of the year. I don't think they're going to fire him midseason like Andrew said in our last episode. But you're also like, I've been in the league for all these years. I won a Super Bowl with one of the greatest defenses of all time. He needs to pull it out here. This is, like you said, this is the opportunity. They did beat the Dolphins, but boy, Tyler Huntley looked awful with the Dolphins. I mean, Mike McDaniel could not call plays. They beat a very weak Dolphins team, no offense. So I think that this is a prime opportunity for the Indianapolis Colts to get right, and it starts with stopping the ground game.
Yeah, it does, because if you don't, I mean, that's what the numbers show, that this Titans offense goes through the run. Because Will Levis hasn't had the best start to the season by any means, but it does start with the run, and it starts with, like you said, Tony Pollard, and then Tyjae Spears comes in here or there. So, Drake, what do you think? How do you think that the Colts are going to attack and stop Tony Pollard? Because I think that they tried to do everything they could to stop Tank Bigsby last week, but they certainly weren't able to do that. What's going to be the difference this week? What do you think that the Colts need to do in order to stop Tony Pollard? And this might seem like a difficult question to some, but to me, it seems like the answer is pretty simple. But I want to hear what you think.
Tackle the ball carrier.
Yep, that's what it is. All you got to do is tackle.
Tackle the ball carrier. And I know that Andrew mentioned something that Bradley said. I know we all want to crap on him, but he did make a good point. When you make contact, you have to finish. And you saw bounce tackles, and Tank Bigsby really did look like a freaking tank. You have 16 tackles missed in the last game. You have 3+ plays allowed of 60, or 3 plays allowed of 60 or more yards. You have to limit the explosives, and you have to tackle. I think those are the first two things. Third is you have to make, what did we say with, we didn't say it with Stroud, and we didn't say it with Lawrence, but we said it with Malik Willis, and we said it with
Caleb Williams,
Justin Fields and Caleb Williams. Make him think. Make him think. Don't let him give that first or second read or that deep read and the guy's open and he uses that cannon, because that's something you cannot let Levis do, is throw the ball deep. Don't let him get comfortable deep, for God's sakes. Okay, so this is a guy who has shown some of his college tendencies in the pros to roll left for no reason. That awful pick against the Bears, he rolls left, almost runs into his own lineman for no reason and throws a pick. So you have to make him think, because he's shown, no offense, that he'll make mistakes without having to think. So I think if you add more to your defense this time, disguise some things, you might not even have to blitz per se, because their line sucks. So like, you can get to Will Levis here. I think this is a big game for two levels. It's a big game for the defensive front, and it's a big game for EJ Speed.
I think that if EJ Speed is going to have a big impact on this game, he's got to not have 6 missed tackles. But Drake, this isn't a stat that goes in the favor of the Colts shoring up their tackling. Stats Matt stat of the day presented by Busch Light. Pollard,
Exactly.
Tony Pollard is in the top 5 in the NFL in broken tackles. So he's going to be hard to tackle. He's going to be hard to bring down. But I do think that there has been an emphasis this week from the Colts defensive coaches and from the defense in general on tackling, going back to that fundamentals. They haven't done any live tackling, but they've certainly zeroed in on it in when they're on the practice field, in the film sessions. They know what they have to go out and do. They just got to do it. They have to go out there and execute. And I think if they do that, and they're playing closer to the line of scrimmage, they're making sure they're not getting thrown off the blocks, then I think that they can at least put up a fight against Tony Pollard. I mean, if they don't, then they're going to really flirt with giving up 150 yards to the third running back of the season, and they're over 100 yards to the fourth running back of the season. That might even be the key to the game, is stopping Tony Pollard, because then you put all of the onus to win the game on Will Levis, and that hasn't gone well so far this season. Will Levis has a lot of viral moments already within the first 4 games of boneheaded mistakes. The mistakes that you would expect out of Carson Wentz a few years ago. Not having the best season for Will Levis. I think he's tied with Anthony Richardson actually for the league lead in interceptions. So he's had a propensity to turn the football over, just like AR has this year. But it is trending that Will Levis, who got injured in that game against the Dolphins, he is trending to play and will be the starter on Sunday. So, Drake, what do you think this Colts defense can do to really affect Levis? And like you said, kind of make him think, and don't make it easy on him to just kind of dink and dunk and pick apart this defense.
I think, man, I think that he definitely, I mean, four games played. One of them he basically didn't play. I mean, and he's been sacked. He's tied with Gardner Minshew, who played 5 games, by the way, for the 7th most sacks in the NFL with 15. So this guy gets sacked. Now, the thing is, you can't let the ground game get going and let him start pulling play action. Let him start hit. Again, man, it's so crucial, and we always say it, and it's not Trevor Lawrence this time, right, and Doug Peterson. I still think very highly of Brian Callahan, but he's working with a quarterback that's really trying to figure things out, okay? I think that you need to hit him while he's trying to figure things out. He's in the middle of trying to keep his starting job, okay? So I think that you can't get let the ground game get going. I do think, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe that Calvin Ridley leads the team in receiving yards, but DeAndre Hopkins leads the team in receptions. So that's the guy I'm not wanting to take over the game, is Hopkins, because he's shown a liking to DeAndre Hopkins, knows he's a good player, knows he's a good receiver, and he can take advantage of things. So it's really about just putting the game on Levis, man. Make him throw as much as possible, as many tough throws as possible. And even if it's an easy read, put pressure on him, okay? Because again, this is just facts, and the tape shows it, Andrew. This isn't knocking the kid. It's true. He has shown a propensity to do ridiculous things without any pressure. Okay, so you put that pressure on him. You don't let him just lean on Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, maybe not Chig Okonkwo and DeAndre Hopkins. You force him to go to other players and make some different reads. I mean, you could have yourself a game, because he gets sacked quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think when you look at the numbers here for the Titans, Drake, the 2 leaders in receptions for the Titans, Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, with 13 and 12. Then DeAndre Hopkins has 10 catches, Calvin Ridley with 9. But again, Calvin Ridley through 4 games only has 141 yards. DeAndre Hopkins only 121 yards. So Will Levis and Mason Rudolph, for that matter, they haven't been able to connect with these wide receivers, no matter who they're playing. So this is a big opportunity for this Colts defense. I think, Drake, what they need to do, obviously, this pass rush needs to step it up. You need to have a better day for as far as getting production from Leatu Latu. If the Colts can get Kwity Paye back this week, I think that will do wonders. Obviously, you're not going to have DeForest Buckner, Samson Ebukam, or Tyquan Lewis, but we need to start seeing that production. As reserve currency says, can't have 0 sacks again. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
You have to affect the quarterback, and it doesn't have to be. I'm not saying that the Colts need to be blitzing constantly, because I don't think that's the right way to go about it either. They need to be able to get pressure by only sending 4 guys, so that way they can use some disguises and they can make it tough in the secondary for Will Levis and make him force some throws. That's when he gets into his mistakes. So I'm looking at Leatu Latu and Kwity Paye. I know Kwity Paye is coming off of a quad injury, so do we know how effective he's going to be? I'm not sure, but they've got to find a way to attack Will Levis and get him, make him beat the Colts defense. I think that is their best course of action. And then again, when you look at this at the secondary, how to make him kind of force the ball in tight windows, I think you can see more man coverage this weekend. I really could. Have Samuel Womack and Jalen Jones kind of press and get up in the face of DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley. DeAndre Hopkins isn't a burner by any means, so I don't think Jalen Jones is necessarily going to get burnt by DeAndre Hopkins. You can be a little bit physical with him. Samuel Womack over on Calvin Ridley, I think that could work. We'll see if Kenny Moore returns. He was limited and now he didn't practice today. So if Kenny Moore comes back, obviously that's a huge help. But if not, then you have Chris Lamons there on Tyler Boyd in the slot. So it's going to be, I do think that this Colts defense can have some success against Will Levis. The opportunity for turnovers is going to be there. Will Levis turns the football over a lot. And believe it or not, the Colts are actually, I think they're tied for 8th in the NFL in turnovers forced. That's probably the one area on defense that they're actually playing well, is their ability to force turnovers. So that they will have the opportunity to do that. They even forced 2 turnovers last week it was just 1.
Yeah.
No, it was 2.
No, they had a fumble force from Jalen Jones.
It was 2. Yeah, it was 2 last week against the Jaguars. So if you can win the turnover battle, that's already going to give you a leg up in this. And there's going to be opportunities for turnovers. That's just how Will Levis plays. And when those opportunities are there, the Colts have to take advantage of them. I'm not only talking about getting the turnover and forcing the turnover. You got to get points off those turnovers. Get the offense needs to take advantage of those, go down there and score at least a field goal on each one of those opportunities. You can't be looking back and having at this game and look, and the Colts had 2 or 3 turnovers and ended up getting 0 points off of those. That's just unacceptable.
Yeah, and they kind of are a team right now that really needs to have a game defensively where you have 2 or 3 turnovers, but you also finish the game. You also, limit the yardage. And I'm not saying that, if you're up, 20 points in the fourth quarter, you can't let up just a smidge. Okay. Against the Titans offense, they're not built to come from behind. Okay. That offense, well, maybe they were, but they're not performing like it. So it's like, if you can establish a solid lead, yeah, maybe you let up a little bit, but I think that Gus Bradley, if they get a lead on the Titans, this man needs to change a little bit of this philosophy of bend but don't break and keep everything in front of you. I know that they need to make tackles, but he also needs to stay just a little bit aggressive. And I think that you need to put this team out of reach if you can, and get your first AFC South championship, or your first AFC South win, so that you can keep the championship hopes alive for the division. So it's just such a huge game. And I know that Levis has been down, but he's still got a great head coach. He's got weapons. He's got a hell of a running back. And he is still an incredibly athletic and gifted quarterback that can get that football downfield. So don't underestimate him. Don't take him lightly. If you can hit him in the teeth early and often, do it for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
X factor time. The Colts are missing a lot of starters. They're still going to be missing a lot of starters heading into this game. So there's plenty of options for X factors because I think a lot of guys that we aren't normally talking about on a week to week basis, I think they're gonna need to make plays in order to get the win. So Drake, who do you think is going to be the X factor for the Colts this weekend against the Titans?
Man, it's there's two guys at the same position, but I can only pick one. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say Zaire Franklin. Now I know that EJ Speed, we've been hounding him for those missed tackles. Zaire Franklin hasn't looked like himself. He's looked, especially in the Jaguars game, man. You're kind of looking at like, wow, you have not played up to the caliber of football you played these last 2 seasons. I hope Zaire Franklin goes in there and has like 12, 13, 14 tackles, 2 for loss, maybe a fumble forced. I hope he has himself a day. I just hope EJ Speed stops missing tackles. If he does that, perfect. But it's these linebackers and Tony Pollard that are going to be the matchup for me.
I like that. I definitely think it's going to be on the defensive side of the football because the defensive side of the football is the side that needs to rebound. They need to play better than the offense. The offense has been playing pretty well. I think I'm going to go back to the pass rush. 0 sacks a week ago, unacceptable. You have to be able to affect the quarterback. Will Levis not only he's one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. There's a reason for that. He holds the football a long time and he makes some dumb decisions with the football. My X factor is Leatu Latu. I think Leatu Latu has to come out here and have a big game. I know that he's probably going to go up against JC Latham for much of the game, and Latham is a really solid rookie, but at the same time, Latu's got to win those matchups. He's got to get to Levis. I need to see consistent pressure from Latu throughout the day, and I need to see at least a sack. Latu needs to come on, and he just needs to produce more for this team. I know that's asking a lot about a rookie, but he's also a first-round pick, the 15th overall pick. It needs to start seeing more out of Latu on a more consistent basis. Sean Contwright just says the linebacker group. That's his X factor is the linebacker group. Kind of going with you.
Answer.
Stats Matt says the defensive line as a unit, the interior stopping the run, and the edges affecting Levis 100%. All right, Drake. Colts Titans 1:00 on Sunday afternoon in Nashville. The Colts are 2-3. The Titans are 1-3. Both of these teams, I think, desperately need a win. But who's going to come out on top in this matchup on Sunday?
It's gonna be close, right? I think especially I know that they beat him last year with one with Tannehill, the other with Levis. But ironically, the one with Levis, they were kind of beating down the Colts until Henry got hurt, and Levis still took them to overtime. So I think this is gonna be a close game. 26-23 Colts. I think that it's going to be a dogfight. The Titans just stay right with Indianapolis. It's always a good game, and it's always fun to see the Titans and Colts fans absolutely have a war with each other on X. It's good stuff.
So 26-23 Colts. I'm going with the Colts as well. I've been picking against the Colts for the last few weeks. I do think that this team is going to rebound. I really do. I think they're going to be rejuvenized by having Anthony Richardson back. They're getting some other guys back. That's certainly going to help. And I do think that this defense is going to play better against the Tennessee Titans. I really do.
Sure.
They're going to have opportunities for turnovers. I think that they're not give up as many explosive plays as they did a week ago. And when you look at the numbers, and the Titans defense is really good. But outside of that game against the Dolphins, where Tyler Huntley was coming in, and I forget who the other quarterback was. Was it Skylar Thompson? I don't even know.
Yeah.
They didn't even watch the game that closely. Outside of that, every team that's played the Titans this year, besides the Dolphins, has scored at least 24 points. So that's a trend. I am going Colts 27, Titans 20. 27, Titans 20. I'm going with the over. I do think that it's going to be a little bit the score is going to be a little bit farther away than what you're predicting, Drake. But I think that this is the type of game that I would expect the Colts to kind of come out, get off to a fast start, whether it's with the offense or with the defense, and then kind of consistently hold the lead. I just don't think that Will Levis is built to play from behind. He's going to try to force things, and ultimately he's going to make mistakes there. So I'm going Colts 27, Titans 20. Let's look at the chat and see what they're saying. Bruce Cox, it's a week by week season. The Colts beat the Titans by 14. Bank on it. Okay, so he's got the Colts. We got Sean Contright saying 31-27 Colts in a high scoring affair. We've got reserve currency 24-10 Colts. The defense finally shows up. Stats Matt 27-17 Colts. The Colts get a pick six in the fourth to put it away. I like it. So we're all on the Colts. I do have a more confidence in this team, surprisingly, after their performance against the Jags. But I do think that they were humbled this week, and this defense only has one way to go, and that's up. I don't think it can get much worse than it did against Jacksonville last week. I think they're going to be ready to come out and really put it to the Tennessee Titans. So it should be a really fun game. Now, Drake, let's look at the Colts injury report, because although we're picking the Colts, the injury report is still a long one. So let's get that up on the screen here. Obviously, when you look at the guys who haven't practiced all week, talking about Michael Pittman Jr., who we're not expecting to be out there, Jonathan Taylor, we're not expecting to be out there, Josh Downs, still up in the air. Josh Downs he didn't practice today, but he was working off to the side with the training staff. That usually means he's close to practicing. So out of the guys that didn't practice all week, that's the guy that I'm going to be watching the most tomorrow. And then Kenny Moore II. He was a limited participant on Wednesday, did not practice Thursday. So again, he had that hip injury. The shoulder injury is new. Can't confirm if he injured his shoulder in practice or not. But certainly not a good sign when you're limited and then you go to do not play in the middle of the week or do not participate.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, obviously, the Colts are banged up in the secondary, but dear Lord, you really want Kenny Moore back, because I know that the Titans have struggled, but they still do have three veteran receivers. And I do think that Tyler Boyd might be able to figure out some ways to potentially help Levis from the slot against Le Mans. So you're hoping that Moore is going to be able to return. Same thing with Downs, because if he doesn't play, then you're really looking into like Pierce and Doolin and A.D. Mitchell. So I'm right there with you, man. Those are the two I'm watching, but especially Kenny Moore, because you make progress only to go right back down the next day.
Yeah, if Josh Downs can't play and Michael Pittman's not out there, then you're missing your top two wide receivers, and that's going to be difficult for Anthony Richardson to kind of carry. Hey, it'd be nice to see Kylan Granson for once in the 2024 season. I'm sorry, he does not deserve that. I apologize, but let's look at the injury report here, Drake. The rest of it, Kwity Paye limited both days. That's a good sign. I do think Kwity Paye plays on Sunday. Hopefully, he's a full participant tomorrow, and if he is, that's a good sign that Kwity Paye is going to be out there and at his normal starting role on Sunday. But it does look like the Colts are getting back Anthony Richardson, who was full today. Ryan Kelly has been full all week, so I would expect Ryan Kelly back in the middle of the Colts offensive line. Braden Smith didn't practice on Wednesday, but he was full today, as well as Trey Sermon. All of those guys trending in the right direction to play on Sunday, which is a very good sign, because the Colts need all of those back. And I think even if you get the minimum of Richardson, Kelly, and Paye back, that makes this Colts team much more formidable than it was a week ago.
Yeah, and you have, obviously, with the weaknesses that Tennessee has, you can attack them more effectively with a guy like Kelly and Richardson at quarterback. I know Bortolini played well, but I think that if Kelly goes, which it looks like he's going to, I think that they'll probably go with Dalton Tucker at right guard, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that what you feel they'll probably do?
I would say probably, but I'm not going to rule it out. I'm not. It wouldn't surprise me if Tanner Bortolini is out there at right guard on Sunday. But Dalton Tucker, I think, has really played well enough that he's earned the opportunity. But again, since Bortolini has played some guard in college, he's listed as a backup guard to Quentin Nelson. It wouldn't surprise me if the Colts put Bortolini out there, because in the two games that Bortolini has played for Kelly, he's been very, very impressive.
Yeah, and regardless, I mean, like you said, if you can even just get Richardson Pay and Kelly back, man, that's better than nothing, dude.
Exactly. Let's look at the latest Colts news and rumors before we get you guys out of here to go watch Thursday night football. Let's take a look here because the Colts they we all know about the move to release or waive Dallas Flowers this week after that poor performance against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, the Colts made a move at cornerback. They elevated David Long Jr. from the practice squad to the active roster. David Long Jr. Was a former third-round pick in the 2019 NFL draft. Has some starting experience. I think he started 12 games in his career. The most was in that 2021 season. He started 5 games with the Los Angeles Rams. But again, you're bringing David Long Jr. on to probably be a special teamer to add depth to the room. I don't see David Long rotating snaps with Samuel Womack like Dallas Flowers was. I think Samuel Womack has now solidified himself as that starter on the outside opposite of Jalen Jones when the Colts are in their nickel defense.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Sam Womack. He's absolutely blown pretty much everybody away. I don't think anybody expected him to do what he's done.
No.
So credit to him. I think he also mentioned, I'm not going to I'm going to do everything possible not to get cut again, like when he got released from the 49ers. So, but yeah, man, you're talking about a former Super Bowl champ. So, David Long has been able to see what it's like to win, and his best season came that year with the Rams. But yes, you're just hoping, and no offense to him, you're hoping he doesn't have to play coverage. You are probably keeping him more for, like you said, special teams use.
Yes, exactly. So that we look at the other moves. The Colts did sign running back Trent Penix back to the practice squad, as well as Jack Wilson. Now, Jack Wilson is very interesting. So, 6'11" offensive tackle, guy that played college basketball, really doesn't have a background in football, but he's a behemoth of a human being. And he kind of takes, I feel like this is kind of taking the Jake Witt spot on the practice squad, a guy that's really athletic, really big, but he needs to put it all together. So I don't think this guy's going to have a very big impact on the team, if ever, but it is interesting to see that the type of player that he is, especially just at his size. 6'11" in the NFL is unheard of.
Yeah, and he bounced around from like Iowa to like Minnesota, multiple schools playing basketball.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then he played a little bit of football at Washington State, but he played special teams for the Cougars. So it's just such a weird signing. I remember writing this going, okay, roster move. And I started reading about this guy, and I'm like, I don't even think Colts.com is really sure of like what this guy did in football, because it's like, it was mostly basketball. It was a basketball profile. So, hey, you've got a guy like Mo who's been able to do it. Why not give a guy like this a chance? I will say, I can't remember the guy's name. I think it was Skinner, maybe Skinner, but Skipper.
Yeah, John Skipper.
So if somebody was like a center, like 6'10", 6'11", all I'm saying is typically in my
Dan Skipper.
Yeah, you get these tall linemen. Man, a lot of times defensive players can get under those long limbs. So we'll have to see.
I think John Skipper was the old boss for ESPN. Don't quote me on that.
That's awesome.
but hey, he's not an awesome person if you know what he did to get ousted out of there.
That's fair.
Dude, like building snowmen all the time. But and then to kind of close out the roster moves for this week. Poor Spencer Schrader, Drake. Spencer Schrader is like he's on that. He's on the practice squad, off the practice squad, on the practice squad, and now he was released to make room for Jack Wilson. But so the Colts continue to make practice squad moves. I think they still have an open spot on their roster because they brought David Long Jr. up from the practice squad to take a Dallas Flowers spot, but there's still a spot there because Will Fries was placed on injured reserve. So the Colts are still going to make at least one more move to get the roster back up to 53 guys. So we'll have to let you know when that happens. But Drake, Week 6 is upon us. Colts, Titans, big game in the AFC South. Both of these teams looking for their first win in AFC South action. And like I said earlier, if the Colts want to hold out any hope of capturing the division title this year and making a run, I think they got to win this weekend. Dick, you can't start out 0-3 in your divisional games because that pretty much kills any chance of having any tiebreakers available to you once we get towards the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the eyes are on the defense. I know that the offense needs to improve. Everything. Everything can improve if you really look deeply. But the defense, my eyes are on the defense. My eyes are on the linebackers. My eyes are on the defensive front and Gus Bradley's scheme. How are you going to come after Levis? Are you going to be aggressive early on? Are you going to hit the kid in the mouth and you're going to make him make decisions? Or are you going to let him get easy completions, get comfortable, run the football, hit those running backs that he likes to hit? I mean, it's all about the defense. That's where it's going to start and end. And if they have a crappy defensive day, man, I just don't see them winning.
Yeah, they got embarrassed in Jacksonville. So now what's the Colts defense going to do? Are you going to continue to be one of the laughing stocks of the NFL, or are you going to change it and put together a solid effort and start putting together the defense that this Colts team is capable of? So that's our show for this evening, guys. Really appreciate everybody tuning in to talk this Colts Titans matchup with us. The games are always close. They're always a slugfest. So I would expect Sunday to be nothing else but that. No super chats this evening, but we still really appreciate everyone that tuned in to talk Colts football with us tonight. If you haven't done so, again, please go follow us on all of our socials, Facebook, X, subscribe on the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that bell to turn the notifications on so you never miss us. And then wherever you listen on podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, please subscribe. Give us a 5-star review so we can reach other Colts fans just like you. Drake, as always, we end the show by telling the people what they need to go check out on horseshoehuddle.com. I know you've got plenty of content that people need to go out and read.
Yeah, so a couple things that were pretty cool is that Josh Downs actually is a very valuable fantasy football waiver wire pickup, so go check out that coverage. And also I have my 5 keys to victory for the Colts coming out tomorrow, but I did release my 5 tough questions that the Colts must answer to succeed.
Yes, definitely check those out. Myself have a piece out there on Shane Steichen and his thoughts on Gus Bradley and the defense for the week. Gives us a glimpse into what Shane Steichen is thinking, but also put in the hard truth about what is defense and about how Gus Bradley has performed as a defensive coordinator. And then also Anthony Richardson, all the latest on his injury, what he's feeling, how his mindset is heading into this Titans game, and what he plans to do in order to stay out there on the field with his teammates and not have to sit on the sideline for a game ever again. So check that out, as well as everything else on horseshoehuddle.com. Go follow Drake at DWalsterDrake. You can follow me at Andrew Moore NFL, and we'll be back Monday night to recap everything from this Colts-Titans matchup, and hopefully we're talking about another victory Monday. So until then, Colts fans, enjoy your weekend, enjoy the game, and we'll see you right back here on Monday night to break it down with all of you.